Welcome. You made it. You're here. Well done. G'day and welcome to this Australian Open Life and the men's doubles final between the Australians Rinky Hijikata and Jason Kubler, the Australians, the Unseeded Wildcards, playing the Europeans. The Frenchman Hugo and the Polish player Jan Zielinski. And boy, oh boy, it's local time, 11 o'clock. We've been waiting for that women's final to finish, with the scheduled time being pushed back constantly since about 9 o'clock local time. So we just had to chat amongst ourselves and keep ourselves occupied, and we've got to bring the energy up now because for these guys, the unseeded Australians, in their first ever Grand Slam final, the Australian Open, what a place to make your debut. The Australian Open in front of your home crowd, with Russell Crowe looking on, Albos flown in from Alice Springs after doing the hard yards in Alice Springs today. So this week, sorting out some issues there, some political and national issues, and what better way to wind down Albo and Russell Crowe? Well, you sort of count the box office receipts from your last movie, Poker Face. Well, there'll be no poker faces on court with the Australians. These guys are red hot. They let's go through the results. They absolutely slammed the number 8 seeds, but they absolutely demolished the number 1 seeds in the quarterfinal. They got them through to the semi-final, and they got into the quarterfinal because they happened to save a match point in the second set against some very credible opponents there, and they've had a great run throughout the two finals. No nerves for these guys at all. So as we're just waiting there, we've got some pretty decent plans for the stream here. We've done these player profiles of these two Aussies. We've done it to death. So we've just lined up some information about them and how they've reacted to their win, how the reports have gone through the media, and just getting some insights into how they've been travelling. So we've got the full screen here for you, and the match is actually underway, and it's going to be, you can see there, it's the Europeans. It's going to be Neal and Zielinski to lead off, serving in this first set, and they've just won the first point, and we're able to we'll just chat about this quietly. You can see we've brought a bit of innovation to our content, that we're able to work out how to get the live scores up on screen. So let's just settle into this. Just wanted to let you know that we're not making this up as we go along. There's no tricks, no smoke and mirrors. This Australian Open life, we're all we call it as we see it. And let's just take a look at the screen here. I can see I've just got to adjust the logo shortly. But Zielinski and Neal, you can see that I can't quite tell who's serving. If you're listening to this Australian Open Live, the live commentary, we're calling the match blind. Yes, we're pretending we're Alan McGilvray back in the 30s, calling the Ashes from England off telex, by telex and telegram. was how he used to do it before war broke out, of course. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's all right, because sometimes I don't either. But you can see the score there, the live score. It's a pretty flash website for our purposes. And if you're not able to watch the live broadcast through either the Australian free-to-air broadcasts, or if you're not able to get on the internet and see the stream for yourself, if you're struggling to find a radio broadcast of this match somewhere on the internet, and I could actually say who's got an online broadcast, but I don't want to lose any listeners or audience. And if you're overseas and you're stuck, the pub that you thought was showing the tennis doesn't do sports. If you're out the back blocks of Africa, if you're somewhere in deepest, darkest South America, if you're stuck on the Machu Picchu trail because of all the political unrest in there, well, I can tell you that the score in the first game of the first set, with the Europeans, Nice and Zielinski serving, they are actually as unseeded as the Australians. They lead 40-15 in the first game of the first set. It's been running 2 minutes, and the Aussie boys, Hijikata and Kubler, unable to pull any more points back out of that game. And as we look at the screen, you'll also be able to see that that this game is being well recorded and reported live through this website, which we were able to work out how to do this over the last 36 hours. And we've got a few other bells and whistles here. We're able to incorporate our logo. And so throughout the stream, we're going to be flipping between different images. Usually we put up video content, but for our particular purposes, this particular broadcast software we're using at our production studios here in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, unable to transmit 4K footage, and until we find a way of getting the vision up, we'll be relying on hero shots, stills from the footage we've taken over the last 2 or 3 years. It's all proprietary. It's all produced by Wise Words Media, this Australian Open Life, and let's settle into this final. As these guys are having a change of ends at the end of first game, and I can see that the Australians are already well into their work for the night, and I see that they've already won the first 2 points of their opening service game, which is par for the course for these chaps. They have been getting through their service games like nobody's business. They've been serving with great speed and accuracy. Their points have been very short, very unusual for this level of doubles, and considering that these guys have only just come together for this tournament, as they drop a point, it's now 30-15 advantage to the Australians so far in this game, and I would be very confident they'll hold their serve for this opening game. So what we've got lined up for you during this match, we've done some pretty extensive profiles of the Australian players throughout the previous two finals, as we've followed them rather fortuitously over the last 2.5-3 days. Once we saw that they'd won their final main draw match, I think it was the third round to get into the quarterfinals, well, we got on them like flies on a proverbial, and we've been following them ever since. And as they go to 40-15 up in the second game of the first set, you can safely assume the Australians are going to take out this game from here. Well, we decided to follow them and dedicate a bit of time to them, but we've done their profiles quite thoroughly. So for preparation for tonight's match, as they wrap up that first game, they're serving well, these guys. and matching it with their European opponents. What we've got in store. We've done a bit of research, lined up a few articles. We're just going to be going through the articles, and we'll split it up by preview, and then we'll look back at different reporting we came across for the semi-final win, the same for the quarter-final win, and going back as far as they were starting to get the attention of the media going into their quarter-final. So fairly relaxed, fairly not dry at all, and all the while calling the points as they happen. So as the Australians are just taking their first point off the serve of the Europeans, and we'll just stick with the live score screen here. And after this game, there'll be a change of ends, a bit of a sit down, as the Australians have pulled another point off these guys. Things don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but geez, that's a great start. A nice calm start by the Australians, just easing into their work, and they don't muck around. I've seen the highlights for the previous 3 matches, and once they get their work rate up, they start. They just really put their opponents under pressure very early, and as is the case here, 40 love up. They've got a break point already, these chaps. So I would bank on these guys to take this game and go 2-1 up with an advantage already in the first set. Would be a fantastic start, and that'll get Albo and Russell Crowe. I wonder if they're sitting next to each other. There it is. They've done it, the Australians. They've broken through, and the change of ends. They're leading 2-1 in the first set. It's only not even 10 minutes have gone by. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in about 30 to 60 seconds. Don't go away. We'll be right back. G'day and welcome back to this Australian Open Live, this special live stream commentary of the men's doubles final. Grand Slam title up for grabs between the unseeded Australians. They were wildcards coming into this tournament, and the Europeans also unseeded. And you can see the Australians about to, well, they've got their 15 love up. There you can see it for yourself. So while we go through this little bit of info about the Australians, and we'll come back to the score shortly. Just wanted to give you a bit of insight into the Australians, the preview for this particular Grand Slam doubles final. Just to fill you in. The Australians not really well known even in their own country, and why not give them a bit of a leg up in terms of profile? Well, we've come across a lot of interesting background info about these guys, getting to know them a bit better, and fill you in that Rinky Hijikata and Jason Kubler's Australian Open doubles final. It's an underdog story continuing the rich tradition of team tennis. Now, Australia's Jason Kubler, his mum's Filipino and his dad's Australian. He's 29, and as a junior, he was a one out of the box. He was a world junior #1, but he had the skills and the pedigree and the background to be anything, as it turns out. Now, he won his first adult tournament as a teenager. He was only 16 years old. He made his Grand Slam debut at the Australian Open that year. As I'll just check the score for you. And the Australians are now 30-15 up in the fourth game of the first set. Just heading into the 12th minute. This match got underway not far off 11 o'clock local time tonight. And Kubler won his first tournament, 16 years of age, and he was 16 when he made his Grand Slam debut at the 2010 Australian Open the same year. Now, poor old Jason, turns out as time went along, he found out he's got a hereditary knee condition, and injuries started hitting him with a vengeance. And bad knees for a tennis player, not great news, since that's how you make your living running around on them. And it turns out that his injuries were so extensive and so lengthy and so difficult to overcome, it took him 8 years until he returned to the main draw at Melbourne Park at the Australian Open. That's how bad his injury run was. And last year, I'll just check the score for you again, that the Australians are now 40-30 up. They're just being made to work a little bit for the game in this particular exchange of points. And as I struggle to find the words to express myself, they've managed to win that point from 40-30, and they now lead 3-1 in the first set. And continuing that, now that could have been, I reckon that might have been Rinky Hijikata serving that game, because Kubler's been on fire with his serve. As in the semi-final, he was on fire, and both of them been serving extremely efficiently. Now, last year, 2022, Kubler had perhaps the highest moment of his career. He made the final of the mixed doubles at the Australian Open with an Australian player, well-known on the WTA tour, trying to make her way through the ranks, Jamie Fawless, but they went down in that final. But the fact that he made it there, a little bit off Broadway, he considers himself still primarily a singles player. For him, it was justification of years of long struggle, rehab, swimming, bike, recovery, recuperation work. Now, for these guys, if you remember, I was saying earlier, as the next service game for the Europeans, Nice and Zielinski are serving. They're down 3-1 in this first set, and we're now in the fifth game. And on their serve, it's 15-all. So the Australians really keeping these guys honest on their service game. But Hijikata and Kubler have only just come together for this particular tournament. They just basically, threw their hats in the ring and decided to team up. And it turns out that they've shown a level of teamwork throughout this tournament that often takes years to build. And in the often transient world of doubles tennis, that's a pretty impressive feat, isn't it? Even if you're not strictly a close follower of tennis, like if you've seen doubles at this elite level, whether it's men or women, as the Europeans suddenly go to a 40-15 lead in this fifth game, the Australians looking to apply some pressure again so they can turn the screws even further if they can break the serve of these guys this game. The first set could be all over while I'm still blowing hot air at the internet. But for Kubler, he's just said it's super special, and to get to the to get to the final of this particular Grand Slam as something, he says, we weren't probably expecting. He said that was immediately after his semi-final win, and it turns out that these chaps, they've gone along the way. They've upset the top seeds, of course. We know that the number 8 seeds in the semi-final, as the Europeans have taken that game, and it's a change of ends. So the Australians are still up a break, 3-2 in the first set, only 16 minutes gone, and they've beaten 6 top 20 players to get to this final. The number 1 seeds, the 6th seeds in the main draw round, and the number 8 seeds in the semi-final, and they also saved a match point in the second set of the game immediately before the quarterfinal, the one that got them into the quarterfinal. Now there's some inside tips. If I can just refresh this screen and get this information up, it turns out they've actually got some inside tips for the final. So let's have a look at those. Now, I deliberately didn't read ahead to see what this information was, but it turns out that if he knew, it turns out that Max Purcell, the Wimbledon champion who won doubles with Matt Ebden last year, Max Purcell has been able to give some insights on the Hugo Nice and Jan Zielinski from Poland, and it turns out he had some pretty handy insights for these guys, as we'll just check the score. Don't want that screen. I'll bring it back up here for you. This will be a change of ends from these guys. I'll just give you the full screen so you can see, and already the Australians are already up 30-love in the 6th game of the first set, and you can see there down the bottom 20 minutes gone in this first set. Now Max Purcell was saying that the Europeans played the Australian pair of Max Purcell and Jordan Thompson in the second round, and Max Purcell is a pretty well credentialed doubles player. He was actually part of the team facing the Special Ks last year in the 2022 doubles final, losing to the Special Ks. And he's been talking to Hijikata and Kubler a lot about doubles teams throughout. And he's got so much experience in the last few years on the doubles side, and it's helped them out massively. And Max able to fill them in firsthand on what Nice and Zielinski bring to the table, and giving them a few tips, a few insights that Hijikata and Kubler can look to exploit. And of course, this game got underway against against all odds. I was going to say that's not the case. Got underway after the women's final tonight. So I hope that gives you a bit of insight into the Australian players. We'll continue with that. That wraps it up from a preview point of view. But I've got one more here. We'll take a look at this. We'll take a look at this as well. And wouldn't you know it, it's not live anyway. But they had a stunning win in their semi-final, is all I need to say. And that's that article there. So I'm sorry for sounding a bit distracted, but being a bloke trying to do two things at once, apparently, according to some, doesn't come naturally. Now, the Australians are 4-2 up, and the service game now with Zielinski and Nice, and they are 30-love up in the 7th game of the first set. So all we need from the Australians here, we just want to see them we just want to see them continue. They don't need to do too much, anything too special, so long as they hang on to that lead, that break of serve. That's all they need to do. And they've lost that game. They weren't able to put any pressure at all on that service game. And that's the first service game from Nice and Zielinski. They've won that extremely comfortably by 40 love and managed to win that final point. So the Australians now serving, and they've got the advantage of trying to win this game to go 5-3 up. And yeah, like I say, if they can just keep their cool and keep their serve and make sure that they don't fall under any undue pressure, they'll be right as rain to carry out executing their game plan to take out this first set, no doubt. And it turns out my cup has run dry. And now the other thing I want to mention, if we just take a quick break here, that I think there's a change of ends, so I'll just take advantage of that quickly. I just want to let everyone know about the I really want to encourage feedback through the chat function. You do need to be a subscriber to give us some feedback through the chat, but we'd really appreciate it. So look, if you become a subscriber, if you're not already, you've only got to wait 20 minutes, and this match is going to go longer than 20 minutes. And the reason we want you to subscribe is so you can contribute to the conversation. I'm not just here talking into thin air, hoping that people are listening to me attentively and hanging off every word that I utter. It'd be great if you could provide some feedback of your own. I was going to put up a poll. I've just not quite got that function going as yet, and I won't worry about that too much. But it'd be great to hear your thoughts. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who know far more about tennis than I do, and it'd be great for you to contribute to the conversation, because that's the whole reason why this platform is functioning and operating, is so we can share a conversation. There's so much to talk about. The Australian Open being the first slam of the year, there's so many things to talk about around. It's a great time of year, the Australian Open. January, Melbourne, you put those three things together, combine them. It's a great place to be in summer, and the Australian Open is a fantastic start to the year for us locals. So if you're overseas, you've never been here before, one of the other functions of this platform is we love Melbourne, we love the Australian Open, we want to share that with people overseas. If you've never been here before, maybe we can whet your appetite to buy a plane ticket and a front row seat next to our Prime Minister and one of our greatest Oscar-winning actors ever. They'll probably be here next year, given the chance. So as the game continues, the Australians, we can see, are 40-15 up in the 8th game of the first set. I would back them to take this game out from here, go to a 5-3 lead. And I'll tell you what, one of the things that's impressed me about this pairing, I haven't seen any of the games in full, but watching the highlights, the energy between these guys is off the charts, actually. And they really feed off each other. And they've been absolutely blitzing their forehands. Hijikata just plays without fear, it seems, being 21. And it was only this year, I think he decided, late last year, to commit to professional tennis. And thank God he did, because they've just taken out that particular game, their service game. They're not under any pressure on their serve at all, these chaps. 5-3 they lead in the first set, nearly gone half an hour. And even though the Europeans on the other side of the net are putting up a little bit of a putting up a little bit of a fight there. The Australians just are coping with it quite well. Now, coming up to this service game for the Europeans, they'd want to be making sure that they keep this game and get themselves through to the next game, so they can make their way back into this first set, and hopefully for them take it to a tie break. I wonder what Russell Crowe's thinking at this point. He's never struck me as a tennis player. Used to own a rugby club in Sydney. I think he still does, a professional rugby club, the Rabbitohs. But I've never seen him with a tennis racket, unless he's got a secret practice court there on his farm in the back blocks of New South Wales. I don't know. So the Australians have just taken the first point, I can see, of this service game. If they can break a second time, that's the first set done and dusted. Now, quickly, while this game's going on, I just want to give you some insights into some of the comments that in the interview that the Aussies telling us a bit more about their pairing, and in the interview after their semi-final win, which they ended up winning very comfortably. They were made to work a tiny bit harder than their quarter-final, the number 8 seeds, but once these two Aussies got going, they were just yelling at each other, apparently, they said, and they're at a loss to explain their sudden doubles success. Now, they were both knocked out of the main singles draw last week, and it turns out that they're now in the last week of the Grand Slam, and they were asked what makes them such a good pairing. And as they take out the first set, 6-4. Isn't that what incredible? Let's get it on the screen for you so you can see it. No, not that one. Come on. They've taken it out 6-4. That's incredible. Well done, guys. That's a fantastic start. It's 5-4. I'm getting excited for no reason. I'm just going to check the actual browser there and make sure it's all hooked up properly. Yes, I'm sorry to say that it's only 5-4. I'll just refresh that. I've just got a bit excited. So it's probably a change of ends. The Australians held their serve, which gives me a chance to finish off this little anecdote about what makes these guys such a good pairing. That's what they were asked. Well, Rinky Hijikata said, I don't even know at this point. I think we just see the ball hit the ball. Well, isn't that the whole point of tennis? It's such a simple game if you let it. And good on you, Rinky, for keeping it simple. The 21-year-old, he's got no fear, this kid, I don't think. I don't know that he knows how good he is. I remember doing a profile on him last year. He was given a wild card in the qualifying for last year's Australian Open, and he wasn't able to seize that opportunity. But I can see from the highlights this kid has a lot of belief in his game. He just believes in his game. And Jason Kubler, with all the battles he's had with his bad knees, and we might talk about that a bit later on, as the Australians are now serving for the first set. They're up 15-love, 5-4 with about half an hour on the clock. And we'll just finish off this insight into these two guys. And it turns out during the semi-final, Jason Kubler said it was funny because at some stages we're just yelling at each other. I don't know what Rinky's saying. He doesn't know what I'm saying. We're just yelling for the sake of yelling. Well, who wouldn't be yelling when you're doing so well at your home Grand Slam? Apparently, the story is you're supposed to have nerves. Well, these guys don't have nerves. They've got ice in their veins, like Steve Waugh, the Iceman from 20 years ago, the Australian Test team captain. Well, they're on 40-love. You can see it there for yourself. They're about to hit the the first set. They're about to take it right out of the hands of these Europeans, and they're about to say, no thanks, this is our home slam, this is our title, they're our crowd. And there you go, there it is. In half an hour, 31-minute mark, the Australians have taken the first set. They are one set away from winning this title. Now, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please. I'm looking for guidance here because I didn't quite do my research before. That I'm pretty sure the doubles these days is a best of 3 sets affair. And apologies if you're watching the broadcast live on free-to-air TV somewhere in Australia, somewhere around the world, and you're finding that there's that the broadcast is way ahead of this commentary. Well, that's due to the lag. Often there's a lag between what I'm seeing, what I'm recording, what I'm transmitting, and by the time it gets through to your screen, wherever you are around Australia or around the world, there's a bit of a lag. So it's not me, and it's not the software or the internet. That's just the way it happens. So that's fantastic news. I'm so chuffed for these guys that they've managed to make such a great start. Let's have a look at the stats just very quickly, because we can do that. The stats for set 1, you can see the aces there. I'll just double check that you guys can see it. 1 second, I'll just refresh this and see if it works for us. No, it doesn't. It's not going to show up for me. All right, we'll won't worry too much about that. But I can tell you, because you can see it there. There's a stats tab. I've clicked it there, but it hasn't refreshed. But I'll just lead you through it. Where did the Aussies? Where did they find their way to win this first set? Well, they've converted 100% of their break points. Now, crucially at this level, when you got your opportunity, you got to take it, and that's exactly what Hijikata and Kubler did. They had one break point opportunity to break serve. They did that exactly. Funnily enough, the Australians have made 8 unforced errors, and the opponents, the Europeans, they hit 11 winners to 8. So where have they outdone it here? So it could be in the service points won. 80% for the Australians, playing 70% for the Europeans. Where's the second serves? It's been very tight, this first set. I'm just looking for a standout stat, and you know what? It is almost dead even. The Australians won 83% of their first serve, and they won 71% of their second serve. So maybe that was the difference, because the Europeans were 10% worse off with their first points won, and only about 3 to 4 percentage points worse with their second points won. So the Australians, let's just say that they've won it by sheer will, that first set, that they've taken their opportunities as they've come up. Naturally, because I'm calling this blind, I can't quite see the execution of the shots, the placement, how they're placing themselves on court. But look, based on the highlights I've seen, these guys, one thing I've noticed is that they have a great knack of calling calling for who's responsible for returning any sort of balls that are 50-50 between them. I've noticed they're very, very good at communicating with each other. But gee whiz, the execution of the shots is one thing that has really stood out. So as we go into the first game of the second set, I've just put up some more hero shots there for you, just to see some of the examples of the content some of the examples of the content that we've been putting together over the last 2 or so years, as the combo of Neal and Zielinski in their service game, the first game of the second set. They've got the advantage of kicking off the second set. first leading that off, and it's 40-30. The Australians are making them work for this first game, and if they can just break point on this serve and bring it to deuce, I like their chances of getting a break point in this opening game of the second set, because with the home crowd behind them, they've done it. They've brought it back to deuce, and they're a chance to win the next point, that they can put some real pressure on the serve of these guys, the opponents, because I tell you what, in front of the home crowd, never mind the Prime Minister, never mind Russell Crowe, it's a 15,000 seat stadium, Rod Laver Arena, so why wouldn't you be playing to that crowd? And that reminds me of the ability of the Australians to play up to the crowd. Hijikata is a real bubbly personality, and wouldn't you know it, I've put the jinx on them. They've dropped a point, and now the European combination, the kid from Monaco and the bloke, the 36-year-old from Poland, they've got advantage. This has been a reasonably long game, fairly even up until deuce, and we'll just stick with this, and they've managed to do it. So that's a really important save for the Europeans. They'll be pretty happy with that. They got out of jail there, I'd say, with saving that game. So the Australians are now looking to draw even, come back to one game all in the second set. And just going back to some anecdotes about these two, that as they stormed into the Australian Open doubles final, and this is taken from their semi-final win, that they admitted that they've been winging it through the doubles draw all the way through being a new pairing. And when they were reflecting on their semi-final win, Kubler was saying, we both returned unbelievably. If anyone watched the match yesterday, that's the quarterfinal, they saw Rinky lacing them, and I was happy to do my part today. And he's referring to his serving, of course. His serving was out of sight from the reports that I saw, and at 15 love in this second game of the second set, I would say that's Kubler on serve. I could be wrong, but Hijikata's serve is obviously very reliable. Now, it turns out their opponents, the number 8 seeds in the semi-final, are the same pair. Get this, they are the same pair that Nick Kyrgios and Thanasi Kokkinakis, the human headline, and his partner in crime, they defeated the same blokes in the same semi-final fixture last year before they went on to win their doubles title. Yeah, look, if you're not up to speed with that story, as the Australians are now 15 all in this second game of the second set, that it turns out how common is it that players from the same country who are wildcards and unseeded go through the whole tournament to win the title? Well, that's exactly what the Special Ks did last year. And Hijikata and Kubler have got their own special brand of infectious energy between them. And they put on a complete performance in the semi-final on Rod Laver Arena. Also, that game was played, and there was a pretty sizable crowd there as the Australians go down 15-30 in their service game in this second game. And it turns out the story was that the Special Ks last year, much higher profile players. Nick Kyrgios, the human headline, the walking exclamation point in a lot of journalists' reporting. Last year, the Special Ks, that was a great win. Now, it turns out that Hijikata admitted that he doesn't even know who out of the pairing, whether it's him or Kubler, takes the tactical lead during the game. He said, I don't even know at this point. I think we just see the ball hit the ball. It's pretty easy stuff when you approach it that way, as the Australians are now back to, I'll just bring up the full screen because I don't want to squint at this time of night, 30 all in their first service game of the second set. I just love that comment. You hear I put my hand up and say, as the Australians are now 40-30 up, I'm not a stats guy. I know I like talking about breakpoint stats and breakpoint converted stats, But stats and numbers don't really float my boat. In fact, they sink it, to be honest. But I just love this comment. Hijikata, I don't even know who takes the tactical lead. I think we just see the ball, we just hit the ball. And isn't it often the case that when you're watching the tennis broadcast, whether it's free to air, and the Australians have wrapped up that first game, as we can see, and we'll just bring you some more pictures taken at various qualifiers. These ones, that Chinese girl, she was playing a qualifier in Traralgon last year. Isn't it often the case when you're watching the tennis that you've got every expert under the sun, special commentary? It's nice to get insights sometimes, but sometimes they just do their stats to death, don't they? And for a modern day player and a young bloke to say, we just see the ball, we just hit the ball, well, isn't that what it's all about? Just win the point. Just hit the ball where your opponent can't reach it. Fantastic approach. And it really does seem, from watching the highlights of these guys, as they take a point off the serve of the Europeans to go 15-all in the third game of the second set. Just keep it simple, eh? Which is probably the best way to go. So let's keep on with these match insights into the game of the Australians. Working our way backwards from reporting about their results, getting them from the semi-final, their win against the number 8 seeds. We've just had a look at their comments after they absolutely steamrolled, blitzed. They smacked the number 1 seeds in that, in the quarterfinal. We're coming up to that, as I'm just trying to keep a half an eye on the score for you, which is off the screen at the moment. And the Australians have gone 30-15 up for this particular service game. They are keeping these European guys under pressure, no doubt about it. And I'll just swap the screen here for you. Actually, we'll just quickly put the score on the screen and keep that up, as the Australians are now 30 all. But even though they didn't win that point to take advantage, I would say, just looking at this score and just reading into how this game, this match, this Grand Slam final is panning out, these guys are putting lots of pressure on Zielinski and Nice. If this match does go the distance into a third set, we might do a little bit of a profile of the Europeans just to see where they've come from. See what their experience is. It's not unusual at all. It's actually more unusual these days. It used to be so common when I was a kid for singles players to also play through the doubles side of the tournament, as the Australians were unable to break through there and fall behind 2-1 in the second set. They're going to serve now for the fourth game, and hopefully they can hold their serve. I don't see any reason why they won't, to be honest. The Australians, that they'll be able to just keep pace. The Europeans will be happy that they've just got the natural advantage of serving first in this next set, so they can just keep their noses in front. But what we've seen to date is that the Australians are keeping them under a lot of pressure. And if you've taken notice up to this point, the Europeans have not put the Australians either serve. Each Australian player has been serving quite comfortably to win their service game. So the quarterfinal, Hijikata and Kubler were facing the number 1 seeds. And just like the Special Ks, they also trounced the higher ranked players for that particular tournament. They won their match 6-3, 6-1, and this was our first live stream commentating these guys, and they worked their way into the match steadily, and then once they got their noses in front, in the first set, they just blitzed. And they ran over the pair of Wesley Koolhof and double specialist from the UK, Neal Skupski. And they just kept their hopes alive of a doubles title, disposing of those guys, those top seeds. Incredible result. And of course, they went on to win the semi-final in 2 hours and 24 minutes. And just looking back at the score here, the Australians serving off to a good start, 15-love in the fourth game of the second set. And it wouldn't surprise you, or would you be surprised to know that the Australians have eliminated 6 top 20 players before this match? 3 of those teams were seeded. And as I mentioned before, they saved a match point in the last match before their first final. Amazing results. So, yeah, that pretty much wraps up all the information that I'd found to date. I think I might have one more in the back pocket looking around. I'll just bring back the score for you so you can see it for yourself. And let me know in the comments how you finding this style of content. Is it annoying? Flipping between different screens? Is the information helpful? And what about the style of the content? Instead of seeing a talking head in front of a camera with a ring light shining into my eyes, what do you think of the audio-only commentary with the visuals backing that up, and then flipping back between those shots and the scorecard? How does that grab you? Well, I can tell you the reason behind that strategy is that there are millions of platforms, millions of channels, millions of people putting out content all the time, and we just wanted to have a point of difference, that we just wanted ours to stand out a little bit and just present something that might be unique and strategic, because let's face it, it's not everybody's built for the camera, and sometimes just a different way of getting information across can sometimes be attractive. As the Australians are now, you can see them, they're 40-15, and they've taken that just as I was saying the score. So they've drawn back level, 2 games all, the fourth game of the second set. So what do you think of this style of content? Let us know in the comments. Share some feedback, and it'd be great if you could subscribe. It would be great if you could like. I'll tell you something else would be great if you could see your way clear to make a donation. That'd be fantastic. We've got the PayPal there. In fact, I might put it up right now while I think of it. Just chat amongst yourselves while I find this info. And we appreciate the contribution so far. Thank you, Carolyn B, if you're dropping in at any stage during this stream. Really appreciate your contribution the other day. I'm just gonna copy this into the chat here, that everybody's got my details, but the PayPal there is the best way to bring that contribution to life. So let me know, what do you think of the information we dropped into the live chat while we were waiting for this match to start, because we had a fair bit of time to kill as the clock wound its way round from a 9:30 scheduled start. Suddenly became, as the ladies' final went the distance into the third set and almost down to a tiebreaker. So just thought, try different ways of getting information across, the weather forecast, the current temperature, things like that. So I've just found this last bit of trivia about these guys, which I might share with you. There's where are we? And I'll just make sure you've got the score. Yeah, you guys have got the score there. Someone can tell me the score. They're just gone to 30 all. The Australians, you can tell they're just trying to edge through for that second break of serve. They might only need one break of serve, these guys, to take out this second set and take the title. But definitely these guys, Nice and Zielinski, definitely putting up a bigger and better fight than the previous two finals that the Aussies faced. The number 1, the number 8 seeds just couldn't come to grips with the return of serve of Kubler and Hijikata. And as I speak, they lose that point and 30-40 down on the serve of the Europeans. So I'll just stick with this and see how quickly the Europeans can wrap up their service game, or alternatively how hard. They've managed to hang on fairly easily. In the end, that was a fairly quick point. They were able to win that, and they put their noses in front in the second set, 3-2. 20 minutes gone in the second set there, and the game's been going almost just over 50 minutes. What else can I tell you about the Australians? This is the last bit of research I've got to draw on. Now, if you watched along in the previous live stream, one of the little anecdotes that I came across was that 7 or 8 years ago, Rinky Hijikata was hanging around the courts at a challenger tournament in Sydney, and managed to find his way to be standing in front of Jason Kubler, and asked him for his autograph in Sydney. Can you believe that they've ended up as doubles partners in a Grand Slam final at their home Grand Slam? Some truth is stranger than fiction, isn't it? A really nice story that, I hope that as we wait for the players, as they change ends and have a sit down, a banana or a yogurt, whatever they're doing, and a glass of water, that hopefully these two guys, with their exploits tonight, and hopefully they get over the line, that they inspire another up-and-coming generation, and hopefully there'll be some kid hoping to get Rinky's autograph at some stage, and that'll also later propel him onto the professional tennis circuit as the Australians open their serve in the 6th game of the second set. They're 15-love up, and I'm just scouting this final little news article for some gold in terms of trivia, and I'll just read through this. It's a fairly long article. Oh yeah, it's going through. It's actually Open Era Grand Slam titles by country. This is a very interesting stat, one that I've never seen before, actually, especially in a print journalist article online here, that Open Era Grand Slam titles by country in men's singles, Australia has won 20 men's singles titles, and I wouldn't have thought that the US was way out in front on 52, and I wouldn't have thought that Spain was ahead of Australia on 30 singles Grand Slam titles. Australia was way out in front all the way through the 50s and the 60s with people like Frank Sedgman and Lou Hode, and getting into the 60s as the tennis circuit went from amateur to professional, with Laver and Rosewell and Newcomb, all those guys, and all the other blokes that were making a good living in the end. Just after the mid-70s, despite the fact we had some pretty good tennis players in McNamee and McNamara, and it wasn't until Pat Cash came along and managed to win Wimbledon for the first time an Australian managed to win since, I don't know, maybe John Newcombe in the early 70s. An interesting table of stats here. Now for the doubles, since that's the most relevant, Australia has won, relevant to this conversation, this particular match going on in front of us, as the Australians have wrapped up their service game there reasonably quickly in light of things. Geez, they're hitting a good rhythm, the Aussies tonight. It looks like nerves really haven't been a factor in their game tonight. They've been very solid on their service games. And I'd say they've been, despite the fact they've only broken their opponents once in the match, nothing to be alarmed about or worried about. But the only thing is that I'd say that they haven't been, they've only had the one break point on Zielinski and Nice. That one break point was all they needed. But it would be good to see if they could just put some pressure on by getting it to deuce, getting it to advantage, getting a break point in this service game. But again, the Europeans win the first point of this seventh game of the second set. They open up a 15-love lead. But going back to this table about the number of open-era Grand Slam titles by country, Australia has won the men's doubles 63 times. Now, their open era began in the late 60s, around 66 to 68, I think it was. And before that, it was all amateur, of course. Now, the Yanks have won 71 open era Grand Slam doubles titles. And probably due in no small part to the Byron. Is it the Byron? No, not the Byron brothers. Byron was one of the brothers. I'm going to look this up because it annoys me when I can't recall somebody's name. So we'll go USA, Byron, the Bryan brothers. There you go. I wasn't far off. They won an absolute. They won a slew of men's doubles titles. After the Woodies, if you remember the Woodies, of course, the Australian tennis fans would remember the Woodies. Before that, before the Woodies, the most famous Aussie combination in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, was the Supermax. Peter McNamara and Paul McNamee, and just a little bit of showboating on name dropping on my behalf. I actually went to the same high school as Peter McNamara. He went through my school, finished about 2 to 3 years before I did, and I'll never forget my history teacher having a whinge one day. I don't know how it came up. It might have been that there was an intra-school tournament going on, and she was talking about, because Peter McNamara and Paul McNamee in 81 to 83, 84, they were super successful and on the brink of quite a few titles, quarterfinals and semi-finals they challenged for in the Grand Slams. And wouldn't you know it, my history teacher was well flummoxed by their tennis success, because according to her, Peter McNamara wasn't the greatest or most dedicated student in her history class. And there you go. But no, that's interesting list there. And Sweden's had a lot of success. No surprise there. They won the bulk of their men's doubles open era Grand Slam titles through the 80s. With they had some great tennis players, the Swedes, didn't they? Mats Wilander, Stefan Edberg. Johan, what was his name? I can't remember. I should have done a tiny bit more research before I started this broadcast. But as you can see, the Europeans held their service game. Now we're getting up the pointy end of the second set, so we might just stay with this. as the Australians start their service game. And I'm going to join you in watching the points unfold in this eighth game of the second set, which is now we're into the second hour, just ticking over into the second hour of this match, ticking over into the half-hour mark of this second set. And I wouldn't say that for the Australians this is a danger period. It only becomes a danger if they drop their serve in this eighth game to let the Europeans go up 5-3. That would be well, not disaster, but it would be a concern because of how hard it is. I think I'd be right in saying that it's extremely hard to break the serve of these Europeans. But the great thing is that I'm confident the Australians can put pressure on these guys at some stage on their serve. And I wouldn't like it to, but I wouldn't be surprised if this set goes to a tie break. And then I tell you what, if it goes to a tie break, it really could go either way. Because as much as I like what I'm seeing in the scoreline of the Australians and putting pressure on the serve of the Europeans, Nice and Zielinski, Nice from Monaco and Zielinski from Poland, I wouldn't like the Australians to go down, and they're not going to lose their service game from here. You can see it's 40-love to the advantage of the Australians. I'd like to say confidently that it's Kubler serving, but equally it could be Rinky Hijikata. I can't see him serving, not pulling his weight in the serving stakes. And look at that, they've gone bang, bang, bang. That is the best service game of the entire match, I think, for the Australians. I don't think I've seen that 40-love scoreline before. Didn't drop a point at all, the Australians there, and got through it quick, smart. So speaking of quick, smart, we're just going to take a short break if this is a change of ends. And don't go away, we'll be right back. G'day and welcome back to this Australian Open Live. We tell stories and our story is tennis, and the story tonight is the Australians. Welcome back to the second set. The Australians are 30-15 up in the ninth game of the second set, and I'll put it up on screen for you so you can see exactly where we're at. We don't need that sting there, thank you very much. And you can see the Australians have dropped a point. It's now 30-all. This is a key point coming up again. It's like a little mini tie break. If the Australians can break the service point here in this game and go to 40-30 and then crack it for another point, they can put these guys under real pressure that the Australians will wrest the advantage back of this second set. And these guys, they've just taken another point back. Zielinski and Nice, I'll tell you what, they are canny players, cunning players on serve. They have not, they haven't missed a beat the Europeans as they go 40-30 up. As you can see that they're coping with everything that the Australians are putting forward to try and put pressure on their serve. And they've done it. No, my eyes were deceiving me. You have to understand, in the production studios here, we're just staring at the screen. And unfortunately, with all the best of intentions, the Australians were not able to take advantage of that particular service game. They were 30 all. They went 30-40 down, and unfortunately, they couldn't break through in that particular service game. So again, the Europeans put their noses in front. The Australians will be under no illusions about the importance of this service game. They've got to take this service game. They can't afford to lose it and give the second set on a plate to these Europeans. So we'll watch this score unfold with bated breath. And the one thing I was hoping we might have a few people in the chat by this point. If you're watching along, if you're a subscriber, or if you're not, please become a subscriber, because that way we'll all be able to play sporting cliche bingo every time you hear me. Every time you hear me roll out a sporting cliche, see how quickly you can win the game of bingo, because they have been coming out pretty easily. I'm not a professional commentator, but I suppose with years and years of absorbing sports commentary from various sports over a lifetime, and it's very easy to adopt them and adapt them into your own vernacular. So, yeah, the Australians, this is obviously a change of ends. They're probably just swapping a few anecdotes in terms of strategy, maybe quaffing a bit of water, and I hope that the crowd is giving them a lot of backup and inspiration. I hope that Russell Crowe's not distracting them, and I'm pretty confident that the Prime Minister Albanese, who flew in today from Alice Springs, a tough few days up there for him, I'm pretty confident that old Albo will be minding his P's and Q's and just watching on intently and not making too much of a scene. But it would be good. Can see a few people have dropped in and out of the stream. And if you are joining us, if you've never been to this platform before, this Australian Open Life is where Melbourne locals, Wise Words Media, produces this content. We know Melbourne inside out, backwards and forwards, and January and Melbourne are a great combination, because that's when the Australian Open comes to town. We unwrap all the toys and dress up Melbourne Park for all the national, the international visitors that are now free to come. Our borders are open, of course. So please drop a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. Let us know who you're supporting. I'll just double check the score here. Just 1 second. Chat amongst yourselves. Oh, thank goodness! Now we were supposed to keep a sharp eye on the score here. The Australians comfortably leading. They've just dropped their first point of this service game, the 10th game of the second set. They're leading 40-15, and that's what happens when you get distracted. And I should be concentrating a whole lot harder. But you can see the Australians 40-15. They're up. The Europeans, Neal and Zielinski, will be looking to put pressure on the server here. Now the only drawback from following this game blind, I'm not watching any broadcast, but following it blind, just watching the scores unfold on this live score website, you can't actually tell who's serving, and it doesn't matter, because the Australian pair have drawn level again. They got through that game reasonably efficiently. They got to 40 love up and then dropped just the 1 point, but they were able to close it out. And that has been the case throughout all of their finals, the quarterfinal, the semi-final, and now this game appears to be following the same way, that the Australians are being very efficient, very untroubled on their serve. To the best of my knowledge, I can tell you that the Australians have not faced a break point. In fact, if anybody would like to correct me in the chat, I don't think they've even been taken a deuce by these chaps, Zielinski and Nice. So you could say that the Australians are travelling along, handling themselves with aplomb, considering the stage they're on, considering the stakes, considering the lead-in, considering that they had to sit around waiting for the women's final to finish. It went to a third set, and the start time got put back about 4 or 5 times, and eventually they got on court around about 11 o'clock. Now I'm hoping that the crowd has stuck around. It's not uncommon. Once the women's final is done, it's not uncommon for the crowd to hit the exits, because although it's not a stinking hot day, we haven't had a lot of hot weather this summer. Let's get that straight. But oh dear. So the Europeans, I'm going to interrupt myself again because they're having a pretty easy time of it with this service game. That they've gone 40 love up in this 11th game of the second set. I'm hoping that they're not getting a second wind. In that I would rather see the Australians win from here, as there you go, that's the game. I would rather see the Australians push through and win this second set, and I wouldn't want to think that we would go to a tie break, because anything can happen in a tie break, and it's not unusual for a player or a doubles combo to lose a tie break and then get steamrolled in the following set. So without wanting to put a jinx on these guys, we'll just basically we'll say to them, well, hopefully they can dig deep and fend off any hint of nerves and draw on the crowd. But as I was saying about the crowd before, it's not unusual for the crowd to thin right out after the women's final at the Australian Open, and for it to be fairly empty, because in all fairness, at midnight, it's only the big names that often keep people in their seats into the early morning hours, and a good example of that was Andy Murray playing until 4 in the morning. His match against Thanasi Kokkinakis went the 5 sets. Kokkinakis lost 7-5 in the 5th. Didn't go to a tie-break in the 5th, but who could blame him for falling short under those circumstances? So the Australians serving, there's been a change of ends, I'd say, and they're serving to stay in the second set. Once they, if they can hold their serve, which I'm pretty confident they will, there's no reason for them to. There's no reason to think that they won't. They currently lead 15 love on serve. They're down 5-6, and if they drop serve here, 7-5 goes into a third set. Anything can happen. But no, the Australians again, cool, calm, and collected on serve. Boy, oh boy, they must. The instincts. They must have such a chemistry with their playing instincts. They're about similar height, slightly similar build, in that Kubler's obviously being 29. He's a bit more weight on the bones as they go to 40 love up. This is a fantastic service game by the Australians. They're ripping through it, and they've done this before, and they're going to do it again, I think, that they're going to draw level any second now from 40 love. They're going to take out this 12th game of the second set. Any second, they'll be drawing to a 6-all scoreline and go to a tie break. And, yep, they've done it. Nice work, boys. That's what we want to see. And it's a great game, isn't it? It's a fantastic game. We want to see good games in finals like these. We want to see players fight it out. We want to see good results in that respect. So it's great for the crowd. The broadcasters will be loving it. But as you can see there, the Australians are now in the tie break. And all they need to do, just hold their serve throughout. And I think it'll be the Europeans serving first, possibly. And we will, no, it's the Australians serving first. So that's great. Great. Oh, no, they're not serving first. I need to be watching more carefully. So I'm going to watch the screen. They haven't dropped the first point. The Europeans have served first, and they've won their first service point in the tie break of the second set. The Australians will now serve twice. They should have swapped ends, I think, after that first point. And whoever's serving out of Kubler and Hijikata, and apologies that I can't tell you exactly who's serving. You can see from this scorecard that it only indicates the team, as the Australians serve to try and win their second point of this tie break. And I'm confident that they will. And we'll just wait for this score to refresh. And there you go. They've done it. So the Australians now are leading for the first time in the second set. This is the first time that they've led the Europeans in this second set. And they lead by a solitary tie-break point. Now, if there's anyone in the chat or anyone listening who's an expert on tie breaks and the way that they function these days, with all the changes that have occurred over the last few years, please help me out in the chat. Tell me how this tie break's going to pan out, because I know for a fact that the tie breaks are a factor in deciding matches these days. I know in the singles, in the fifth set, they only play to 10 points, and possibly in other tie breaks, as the Australians have broken the serve to go to a 3-1 lead in the tie break. They've taken a point off the Europeans. That is a massive, massive get. Well done, guys. That's fantastic. So the psychological pressure is suddenly on the Europeans, because there's barely any margin for error in this second set for the Europeans. The crowd, I hope they're cheering their heads off. I hope Albo's up on his feet. I hope Russell Crowe is throwing a few rounds of applause their way. So the Australians managed to take a solitary point off the serve of the Europeans. Now, all we need from here, we just need the Australians to hold their serve to go to a 5-2 lead, and then it doesn't matter if they can't take a point off the Europeans the next time they serve, because the Australians will serve for the match the next time round. That's the scenario that we're hoping for, but we don't want to look too far ahead. The Australians are serving. They're one set up. They won the first 6-4. They've managed to get to a tie break, and they have won their first service point in this particular stanza of the tie break. They lead 4-2, and they want to hang on to this service point, the next one that comes down, and go to a 5-2 lead. So we'll just wait for the score to refresh, and you can chat amongst yourselves, and you can reflect on all the good things about these Australians, that they've won their way through to this Grand Slam final at Rod Laver Arena at Melbourne Park. Here on the 28th of January, we're into the early hours of Sunday morning here, local time, and it either is a long point, or maybe they're having a second serve, the Australians, and they have lost that point. So the Europeans have drawn back level, even though the Australians lead 4 points to 3. The Europeans have the advantage because they've got the next 2 serves. So they managed to get that. They managed to bring back that deficit straight after they lost it, the Europeans. So you've got to applaud the Europeans putting in a good shift against the Australians on their home court. You've got to applaud their tenacity. They've obviously got a bit of ticker as they win their first service point of this particular stanza. I've just lost the score briefly there. Just 1 second. No, sorry, that didn't work. 1 second, I'll bring the score back, boy. You're probably cursing me at the moment for flicking screens. So it's still 4-all, and the Europeans are serving their second serve of this particular stanza, and the Australians have broken again. They have taken a point back off the Europeans, and for the second time in the second set, they lead, and they lead by a solitary point in the tie-break. Now, they've got 2 serves to come, the Australians, and all they need to do to win the title is they just need to hold their serve on both of these points. And at the moment, they're leading 5-4. They're serving for a 6-4 lead in the tie-break. You get to 6. As soon as you get to 6, you've got match point, and you'll see it come up. You won't see it come up on this screen, actually, because it's because of the way it's formatted. And they've won that point, the Australians. They are serving for the title. They are 6-4 ahead in the tie-break. It's 6-all in the second set, but they're serving for the match. And I'm going to double-check this by looking at the full screen. They've got match point, the Australians, serving at 6-4. They've taken 2 points off the Europeans in this game. They've got a second serve for match point, 6-4. Hopefully they can do it. Come on, guys, bring it home. Do it. Emulate the Special Ks and be the second pair of Australians to win the Australian Open doubles title on the men's side of the draw. 6-4 in the tie-break. It's drawn out. And they've done it. I think they've done it. 7-6. There we go. They've done it. The Australians are through. They've done it with just 1 match point. They only needed 1. They only needed to break twice. The Europeans couldn't do the job. The Australians, Jason Kubler, Rinky Hijikata, have won the Australian Open men's doubles hard court final at Melbourne Park in Australia. What a fantastic result for these guys. Wildcard entries into the tournament. Wildcard entries, can you believe it? And they've come through unseeded. They've beaten 6 top 20 opponents. They beat 3 top 10 seeded opponents to get to the title. And it's the first title for both of these blokes. They have absolutely blitzed their way through the Australian Open. They came together. They never played before. They've managed to find a chemistry, magic, instinctive chemistry, full of energy that sometimes takes years to build. Rinky Hijikata from Sydney, his parents are Japanese nationals. They were competitive swimmers back in Japan. Can you believe it? Jason Kubler, the man with 4 meniscus tears on his medical records since the age of, I don't know whether it was 13 or 14. He won his first ATP Grand Final, ATP final in 2010 as a 16-year-old. He competed at the Australian Open the same year, and he didn't come back for 8 years. What a fantastic story for these guys. Well done, guys. I will put this down. I'm going to call it as the greatest achievement in Australian tennis since the turn of the century. There you go. I said it, and that's fantastic. And tell you what, to come to their home court on the back of Ash Barty being the first Australian woman to win for years, since the 70s, I think it was, for these guys to come through. That we had 2 sets of doubles two sets of Grand Slam champions last year. We saw Alex de Minaur go out. We saw Nick Kyrgios limp off to the medical room and withdraw from the Australian Open before he hit a ball in anger. We saw Kokkinakis go out at 4 in the morning in the second round against Andy Murray. We saw John Millman go out in the first round. Jordan Thompson go out in the first round. None of the girls were able to make an impression on their side of the draw. This is just fantastic for Australian tennis. It's a sensational story. And boy, we can't believe our luck that we've managed to ride the train with these guys, ride them all the way through to their debut title. It's a great result, and well done, Jason Kubler. Excellent work, Rinky Hijikata. Commiserations to the Europeans, Jan Zielinski, the 36-year-old from Poland, and the man from Monaco, Hugo Nice. Bad luck, fellas. You've gone down in 2 straight sets. It's taken an hour and 25 minutes, this match, this Grand Slam title, to the Australians. They won it 6-4, 7-6, 7 points to 4 in the tie break. That is, they were really made to work for this win. That's the toughest opposition they've faced since the match point that they saved in the fourth round match to get into the quarterfinal. And that second set went 53 minutes. So there you go. That's the tale. I think we'd better take a break, take a deep breath. Have a quick glass of water, and we'll be right back to summarise the match, have a look at the stats, and just reflect on a great result for Australian tennis, a great result for these two guys. And if I was Anthony Albanese or Russell Crowe in the crowd, I'd be patting myself on the back for picking a good match to come down to Melbourne to have a look at in person. You're listening to The Bloke Who Walks. This is the live stream commentary of the men's doubles Australian Open final. The winners, Jason Kubler, Rinky Hijikata in straight sets, 6-4, 7-6, 7 points to 4 in the tiebreak of the second set. And they beat the European pairing of Jan Zielinski and Hugo Nice. Don't go away. We'll be right back. G'day and welcome back. Welcome. You're here. You made it. You made it through what was a pretty testing men's doubles final. And the Australians came out on top in straight sets. That is their third straight sets victory in a row. Oh, boy. I am speechless. And not what you want to be when you're doing a live stream commentary. Don't want to be lost for words. Where do we start? The third match in a row these guys have won in straight sets. What nerves of steel! But it's amazing what you can achieve, isn't it? When you're on song, when you're hot, you're hot, and when you're not, as my dear old mum used to say. And thank goodness these guys were on fire tonight. You'd have to say to come through the pressure they must have felt they were under, but they mustn't have felt it. Do you think? I don't know. Let me know in the chat. What are your thoughts? I'm really interested in everybody's thoughts, whether you're a tennis fan or not, whether you like Australian tennis players or not. Maybe you were cheering for the Europeans, or maybe you were just hoping for a good game to pass the time, and boy, they gave us a great game. It was a two straight sets win for the Australians, as I just sort out my screen here. 2 sets to love winners, 6-4 in the first in 32 minutes, and 7-6 in the third set. Went to a tie break, 7 points to 4, winning that tie break. And the Europeans, they had the advantage of serving first in the second set, and they held that advantage all the way through. They didn't face a break point in the second set from memory. They were barely taken a deuce in the second set by the Australians. But equally, and I can say with great confidence, the Europeans really didn't put the Australian, their serve, under pressure at all. Both Australians served very well. And I don't think they were in trouble at all. They definitely didn't go to deuce. And they definitely didn't face a break point in the second set. And I think there was a couple of key moments when the Australians were... They had a chance to take it from 30 all to take it to an advantage of 40-30. They weren't able to crack the code, the secret code, to break open those the European serve in the second set, and it just looked pretty even. Now, all the Australians had to do in the second set, if they couldn't break the serve of the Europeans, all they had to do was just serve out their own game and just look after the factors that they were able to control, which was their serve. And that's exactly what they did. And they took it through to a tie break. And I'll tell you what, serving at 5-6 in the second set, and I'm so sorry, apologise again, that I was calling this match blind off the live score website. And they don't differentiate or nominate the servers as the score is unfolding. And so I can't tell you who is serving at 5-6 in the second set, which Australian. But I don't think it really matters. It could have been either of them because they were both serving so well and so cleanly. And they were winning their points quickly. And serving at 5-6, the Australians went bang, bang, bang. 15 love, 30 love, 40 love, and they got to the tie break 6-all. And in the tie break, just went according to script until the Australians took a point off the Europeans, and they had a chance to blow out to a lead, a couple of points ahead. The Europeans took a point back in the tie break off the Australians, and then the Australians took a second point off the serve of the Europeans, and they took the lead in the second set for the second time in that set. And as it turned out, the second time in the tie break, and that was it. That was it. They went. They had just needed the one match point. The Australians. They got to that advantage, and then they got to that match point, and they just went, "Thank you, mother." I was just going to repeat a famous saying by an Australian football caller from years ago, but I won't bother. But look, let's just look at the where is it? Where's the tie break? Come on, I'm just looking for it there, point by point in the second set. Where is it? The tie break. Here we go. The tie break went like this. Let's go through it. The tie break went. It started off with the serve, the first serve by the Europeans. They had the advantage of leading off. They won that point. The Australians won. The Australians served twice in the tie break. Next, so after the end of 3 points, the Australians led 2-1. The first serve of the Europeans, they lost. They went down 3-1, and then they held their next serve. The Australians started their serve at leading 3-2. They won their first serve of their next stanza. They were up 4-2. It was looking pretty good. All they had to do was hold their serve, and guess what they did? They lost it. They lost their serve. They lost the advantage, and it was 4-3. Now, the reason I'm going through this is because the Europeans were incredibly resilient on serve all throughout the match, all throughout. The Australians only needed to break them once. They had one break point opportunity in the first set, and they took it. And that's, as they say in elite level sport, you got to take your opportunities when they come, and that's what the Australians did. So in the tie break at 6-all and 4-all in the tie break of the second set, 4-all in the tie break of the second set, the Europeans had one more serve to come on this particular stanza, and guess what happened? The Australians broke and took that point off them and went to a 5-4 lead in the tie break, and then it was their turn to serve, and all of a sudden they've got the next two serves. They're leading 5-4. They serve, they win, match point, they win the second serve of that stanza. Game over, match, title, trophy, photos, handshake with the Prime Minister, and if they're lucky, Russell Crowe will shout them a beer. They won the tiebreaker, 7-4. Well done, guys. Jason Kubler, Rinky Hijikata. I called him Ridgy before, as in Ridgy Didge. But, yeah, fantastic result. That is just such a fantastic result for Australian tennis. So pleased for these guys. And, look, what we'll do, might take another short break of about 90 seconds just to have a think about this win and maybe come back with some more stats and some more thoughts. It'd be great if we could have just one minor contribution or two from those of you dropping in and out of the stream. We know you're all tennis fans. You wouldn't be plugging in to keep us company for a few minutes if you weren't. But anyway, this is The Bloke Who Walks. Wise Words Media produces this Open Australia. Let me say that again without the golf balls in my mouth. Wise Words Media produces this Australian Open Live. This has been a live stream commentary of the men's doubles final between Rinky Hijikata, Jason Kubler, winning in 2 straight sets, defeating the European pairing of Hugo and Zielinski. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back to this live stream commentary of the Australian Open Men's Doubles Final. You're listening to The Bloke Who Walks. Wise Words Media produces this Australian Open live, and we have just witnessed one of the best sporting results in Australian sport for some time. And you know, considering that Ash Barty succeeded last year in winning her first and only, for now, Australian Open title, the singles, women's singles, and we had the Special Ks last year, and we've had other successes in the past. We've had some great results in tennis over the last 2 to 5 years, possibly you could say. It's a big call to say that this is, you know, possibly up the top of the pile, but look, when you're a 21-year-old kid coming out of a scholarship education in America, Rinky Hijikata, an All-American tennis pro on the college circuit for the University of North Carolina, and when you're a bloke with dodgy knees, a lifetime of dodgy knees that you were born with, never mind you had an accident or something, Jason Kubler, the man with the hereditary knee condition, and 4 meniscus tears across both knees to show for it, and you come through as a wild card, unseeded, and you slam your way into a Grand Slam Open win, blitzing every top seed that is thrown at you. Well, yeah, you've got to say there's something special about that, isn't there? I think so. Just going to go quietly from here. We're in no rush to wrap up this commentary because it's a fantastic result. It's just great, and you know, without wanting to blow our own trumpet and pump up our own tyres too much, it was just such a great fortuitous coincidence that our first live streams that we ever attempted were for these blokes. We spotted them coming through the main draw into the quarterfinals, and having attempted live streams last year without any success, we somehow found our way through to get this up and running, and we've followed them through the quarterfinal win, their semi-final win, and they are champions tonight. And why not? Let's keep on raving about these guys and their success. It's just fantastic to see, and we don't mind saying we love seeing the locals succeed. So well done, Jason. Well done, Rinky. And again, commiserations to their opponents, Hugo and Jan Zielinski. But let's take a quick look, just for posterity's sake. Let's just have a quick look at the stats, and because this match was close, and it's reflected in the scoreline, being 6-4, 7-6 to the Australians. They broke through with a 7-4 victory in the end in the tiebreak. So let's just take a look at the second set. We did have a look at the first. We won't go over old ground, but the second set was really tight. So where was the advantage for the Australians in this particular circumstance? And something's just jumped out at me. I can't believe what I'm seeing. But the first thing that I see is that the Europeans, Zielinski and Nice, had a single double fault. The Australians never double faulted. The Europeans served 6 aces to 3. But have a listen to this. The first serve percentage was almost dead even. But look at this. The percentage of first points won, I don't know. Now, I'm not a stats guy, and I'm not a tennis stats guy, but this is just outrageous. The Australians won 92% of their first serve points. Have a think about that. They won 22 out of 24 of their own service points. And the Europeans, then, they were no slouches tonight either. Now, on any other day, if you win 21 of your serves out of 26 serves, surely you think you might win a match. You might even win a Grand Slam title. But they have been outserved for accuracy, Now, this is not aces, mind you. This says a lot about the combination of the Australians, that they're able to back up their own serves, back up each other by winning 92% of their first serve points. So every time they put the first serve in, they won it. 92% of the time. They only lost, this might make it more clearer, because 92% doesn't sound close enough to 100%. They only lost 2 points on their own serve, and they also were able to outdo their opponents by winning 64% of their second serve points. That's just amazing. Now, the interesting thing is that break points saved, well, that doesn't really apply here because there was not many break points in this match. Now, the return of serve, the Australians won 50% of the return points that they faced. They won 50% of those against their opponents. Getting down to the points, pretty even there. Unforced errors by the Europeans. Now, in such a tight match, this has also been a factor. They made 6 unforced errors, and I'm tipping a couple of those came in the tiebreak without having seen any footage. And the Australians only had 2 unforced errors. I mean, that's just incredible, really. 2 unforced errors, and they only lost 2 points off their own serve. Now, their service points, the Australians won 83% of their service points, as opposed to 70% won by the Europeans won 70% of their service points. The total points won pretty even, really 55% to 45%. So this is an amazing stat in light of the result, and you've got to feel for the Europeans. If they look at these stats, both pairings won 100% of their service games, 6 out of 6. So that's just outrageous. Now, this is for the second set, mind you. This isn't the whole match. So each man in this second set, on both sides of the net, each player won their service games. So, you know, if you're the Europeans and you're looking at those stats and you're trying to work out how you lost the title, because clearly, you know, calling this blind, this match blind, is an interesting experience. Just to watch the scores unfold, and then to not be a person that's very stats don't really float my boat. But in this case, if you just look at the stats and you think, well, where did the Australians win? Well, in the second set was key, because it could have been a different story if they went down. If they went down 7-5 or 6-4 in the second set and went to a third set, you know, there's every possibility those European guys could have gone on to win the title. No, this is just an amazing result by the Australians. They've really, they found some magic. They've really found some magic somehow. And so good luck to them, and we wish them all the best. So we're going to take another short break because we've got a little bit more ground to cover. And so when we come back, the news reports are already up online. So let's go through those, just one of them. We only need to go through one because they're all probably saying the same thing. The Australians won. Here's how they did it. Now, we already know how they did it, so I'm interested in what the Australian Jason and Rinky, I'm interested in what they've got to say about their victory, how they did it, and they're probably speechless, no doubt. And also, what does this mean? What does this win mean for these two guys who, you know, they're not strugglers, they're not stragglers. Jason Kubler, it's no insult to call him a journeyman. Rinky Hijikata, 21, basically only late last year deciding to really commit to his tennis career after weighing up his options after coming out of the US college system. So what does this mean? What does this win mean for these chaps? So let's have a think about that during the break, and I'll come back with my thoughts. And it'd be great to hear your thoughts and see what you think. And because we want to have a conversation about these things, and that's the whole reason why this Australian Open Life came to life, because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Grand Slam tennis and the Australian Open, and we want to have a conversation about it. Interested in your thoughts, see what you think, have a think about things, and don't go away. We'll be right back. G'day and welcome back to this Australian Open Life. We tell stories and our story is their story. The doubles champions of 2023, the men's doubles champions, Rinky Hijikata and Jason Kubler. Take a bow, fellas, and enjoy it. And got a special, special surprise for anyone that's been seen their way fit. Now don't go anywhere. I can see that there's three of you there. Just 1 second, because have a look at this. in the water. We'll try this again. 1 sec. G'day and welcome back to this Australian Open Life. And I was able to... It's just fantastic. Let's get this... And just bear with me, chat amongst yourselves, because it wouldn't hurt to have a bit of music with these guys. incredibly pleased to be able to follow these guys through. And that's the final scorecard. And we'll wrap it up here. You've been listening to me, the bloke who walks. I don't usually rant and rave until 1:20 in the morning, but that's the way it's panned out. We've been going a good couple of hours. I'll just check the time. Yeah, we've been going a good 2.5 hours here, but it's well worth it. This is a historic night for Australian tennis, a fantastic result, very unexpected, and off the back of the Special Ks last year, and Nick Kyrgios and Thanasi Kokkinakis last year, those three winners. It's great to have Australians in the winners' circle again, Grand Slam champions. So that's all from us. We appreciate your patronage and your interest, and keep supporting us because we want to share the conversation about the Australian Open and Melbourne and tennis in general. So let us know your thoughts. And that's all for now. So hope you enjoy the final tomorrow between the Joker and young Tsitsipas, and hopefully Stefanos can get across the line and give the Melbourne Greeks and the Greeks back in his home country something to cheer about. You've been listening to The Bloke Who Walks. This has been the live stream commentary for the Australian Open men's doubles final, and we will chat to you very soon. Bye for now.